Thanks, Chief. Just give us a minute here. We're trying to clean it up. Okay. These are solid. Yeah, they're good.
Nobody's going live, so it's not. We don't have to
That's true.
We don't have to do a hard start at 3. So we're
Right. You're good. And that's what I was going to ask you. You're not live feeding something here?
Say it?
Yeah. This camera?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
We're not live streaming.
Okay.
Hey, come on, buddy.
Ginny, you're good?
Hi, Chief. How you doing? Chief, when you just grab it right here, just in case it's gonna sleep, okay?
No, it should be. It should be fun.
Okay.
I should be able to work with them. Yep.
All right, and let me.
Yeah, and we actually, that's the thing I told them. We're not need to start. Yeah, we can just have some clear options. Okay.
Somebody's mic just flipped over up there.
Okay. Listen, one more time, we Who's the little box? Huh? Okay. It was falling over. Uh-oh. I just want to give him a little room here. Here, I'll tell you what.
We just like.
I know. It went over the front. I didn't want it to break. Very similar scars.
Oh, you did? Oh, wow. I got this reaching for my iPod headphones in a car, and then.
And I went through a sliding glass window. I went. You're good, Jen? Okay, we're good. Thank you.
Yeah. Test 1, 2, 3. We've got a second. We can wait till he gets you up. Are you good?
I'm good to go. Thank you.
Okay. Get this out of the way.
Yep, we're good.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. I'd like to provide an update on the shooting that occurred last night in the Gaslamp area. At approximately 10:30 last night, San Diego PD received multiple calls of a shooting that had just occurred in the 500 block of J Street in the Gaslamp District. Additional calls came in stating that the suspect had shot a person and had walked away, and then had been involved in another shooting at 5th Avenue and Island Avenue. When officers from Central Division arrived at the initial shooting location again, the 500 block of J Street, they found a 28-year-old male down on the sidewalk with at least one gunshot wound. San Diego PD officers and fire rescue personnel provided medical aid, but unfortunately he was pronounced deceased at the scene. I'd like to make one note of correction from this morning's initial report. After reviewing security footage and speaking with witnesses, We do not have evidence of a verbal exchange between the victim and the suspect prior to the shooting as initially released. Following the first shooting, the suspect then walked northbound on 5th Avenue, where he confronted a group of males. The suspect again produced his handgun and shot all 4 of them. The suspect then continued walking northbound, but was followed by 2 citizens who tackled and attempted to detain him while officers arrived. The suspect violently resisted, and additional citizens also attempted to assist in his apprehension. When officers arrived, the suspect continued to struggle, prompting one of the officers to deploy his taser to subdue him. The suspect was taken into custody without further incident, and a 9mm handgun was recovered from the suspect. He has been booked into jail for murder and 4 counts of attempt murder. At this time, the decedent's name is still being withheld while we work with contacting his family. I'd like to offer our deepest condolences to the family of the decedent and his loved ones. I know this is an extremely difficult time for them, and I'd also like to give my condolences to the other 4 victims and hope for a speedy recovery for them. I'd like to talk about the suspect for 1 second. He has been identified as 32-year-old Travis Sureste, and I can spell that for you. It's Sarresteh. Sureste is a San Diego resident who lives in the downtown area, and at this time, we believe this to be an unprovoked and isolated incident. I'd like to take a moment to thank some individuals. First of all, I'd like to thank all the witnesses who quickly notified the police department of this incident and remained in the area to provide statements for our investigation. I'd like to thank the 2 citizens that had the heroics and the bravery to confront this person and actually tackle the suspect until officers arrived. I'd like to thank a citizen who is a former combat medic who rendered medical aid to one of the severely injured men who was a victim in the second shooting at 5th and Island. This medic saved that man's life. I'd also like to thank all the San Diego police officers that arrived, our homicide division, our communication staff, our crime lab, and fire rescue personnel who worked seamlessly as a team to bring this very chaotic situation to an end. Also like to talk about what you're going to see next. Over the next several weeks, citizens and patrons of the Gaslamp area will see an increased presence of San Diego police officers. We want our visitors and our residents to know that they are safe in our community, so we will be out there proactively working to stop any events like this before they happen. Just a month ago, we released our 2020 annual crime statistics, which showed an increase in violent crime consistent with other cities across this nation. Unfortunately, early statistics for 2021 are showing that we will see an increase again this year. This is what we've seen so far. A 4% increase in calls from the community, a 50% increase in shooting investigations for the first 2 months of this year compared to 2020. We've seen a 169% increase in unserialized or ghost guns from 2020, and we're already close to surpassing last year's number of guns found in the community, and it's only the end of April. We're seeing a prevalence of guns and folks in possession of firearms in our communities, and this is causing not only me as the chief of police, but our police department great concern. I want all San Diegans to know that San Diego PD is working day in and day out to protect our city. We want our residents and our visitors to feel safe, and we want to make certain that we're working collaboratively to get guns off the streets. And with that, I'll open it up to any questions.
Chief, can you tell us anything more about the shooter, Travis Sarresteh, or how we pronounce his name? Did he have a record? Was he known to officers?
He's not known to officers. He is a San Diego resident. We know he actually lives not far from the scene. He is a downtown resident, person of the city of San Diego. Not going to go into his real criminal history, but he does have a criminal history, and it's something that we're still taking a hard look at.
Was his gun registered?
It was a ghost gun or unserialized firearm, and again, it was a 9mm. And again, it's very concerning. We're seeing a lot of ghost guns. I think I reported not more than a month ago that about 1 in 4 of every gun that we're recovering right now is a ghost gun. Yes.
Any similarities between the other victims that you know of, or does it appear like it was random?
No, it appears, completely unprovoked. As we mentioned, the unfortunate young man that lost his life at 500 J Street, completely unprovoked. No conversation, no altercation between himself and the suspect in this case. We know as he moved north, there was some kind of altercation. We're still trying to work exactly that out. Possibly somebody bumped into somebody and that caused an exchange of words. And then the man, kind of without warning, fired on the 4, striking all of them. We know the 4 were friends and they're visiting from out of town.
You said he lived near the area where the shooting happened. Did he actually live in the place, or was he homeless? Or?
He does not appear to be homeless. No, he is living somewhere in the downtown area, and I won't go more into that.
Last night it was unclear over how many shots were fired. Has that been confirmed?
We don't know exactly. That would be obviously part of the investigation. We have an incredible crime lab, and along with our homicide work, talking to both the victims and witnesses, along with our crime lab, we'll hopefully be able to piece together the exact number of rounds that were fired.
Chief, but at least 6 shots were fired, at least, through the first and then 4 at the other side.
Yeah, I'd say probably more likely more than 6, yes.
Thank you.
What more can you tell us about the 2 citizens that tackled him and then the struggle that ensued?
I'm not going to disclose their information. I just do want to talk about their bravery. And, the one thing that we have always had here in San Diego is the collaboration with the community. And these 2 men, and they were assisted by others once he was tackled, were willing to put themselves in harm's way because this could have been far worse if he wasn't apprehended so quickly. So I really do want to commend these 2 gentlemen that literally tackled an armed assailant, and really the struggle was pretty bad. I mean, it was a very, violent struggle by this person, and took officers obviously had to use their taser to subdue him. But again, it speaks volumes of their willingness to go into harm's way to protect strangers.
Were they injured at all?
I understand they might have some bumps and bruises, but nothing significant. No.
Can you state? I'm sorry. Can you state the ethnicity of the victim, please? Ethnicity
Of the victim,
Yeah.
The decedent is a white male.
The suspect has been described by witnesses last night as someone who had a vendetta against the world. I don't know if there's been any, if anything has shed light over what his motive might have been.
That's something that we're still working on. Unfortunately, I generally won't go into what the suspect stated, but in this case, he's not talking to us. He invoked, so he's not going to give us that. So that will be one of the things that we'll have to determine. We'll have to work through, and that's part of the job of the homicide investigators, to really, not only go into his past and talk to friends and family, but also talk to witnesses and talk to the victims, see if there was things that were stated to them to help us kind of piece together a motive.
Chief, a lot of people said, a lot of witnesses said, it was scary because you heard gunshots, you saw a lot of people running. It reminded them of images in Vegas or the country shooting. What can you say, again, to help make the community feel safe and, like tourists you mentioned, help everyone feel safe?
Yeah, it's unfortunate that these type of incidents are occurring across this nation, and obviously we saw it happen last night in our own city. I want to focus on the positive of that. Is what you saw last night is citizens putting themselves out, calling the police. We had multiple callers on this. We had multiple citizens willing to confront the assailant. We had citizens helping those that are injured, and we had citizens that stayed and provided phenomenal witness statements to really help this investigation. So I really want to focus on the collaboration and the coming together of the community during a very tragic time and a very chaotic circumstance that allowed us to take this, and this could have been far worse. This person could have continued down the street. I don't know how many more people he could have shot. And so I'm just very fortunate. You look at 5 victims, and that's significant. We had a young man lose his life, and that's just horrific and should never happen. But we're blessed that it wasn't worse.
Did he have more ammo on him?
That will be part of our investigation that will come up in the court case moving forward.
Do you know if he was under the influence of anything?
that also will be part of our investigation.
Chief, did you say if you looked at surveillance video, if that helps with anything as the investigation continues?
As I stated, the one correction, we were able to look at footage that clearly showed there was really no interaction between our suspect and our deceased male. So, obviously that is always going to be part of the investigation, is looking at video footage, I should say, and just piecing everything together. And then, of course, we'll work through this investigative process and then turn it over to the district attorneys, who's already on board with us on this case.
Are the other 4 victims, they're all expected to survive?
My understanding is yes. We had 2 of those that had very critical, at times life-threatening injuries. I'm happy to report both of those are stable, and we expect all 4 to recover from their injuries.
Can you say what hospitals they were taken to?
I can't at this time, no.
For the citizens that tackled the suspect, is that part of the reason why he was able to be apprehended so, without any more violence had?
That's a great question, and the question is because of the citizens tackling him. It allowed us, one, to get him into custody sooner, but there was still quite a struggle getting him into custody. Again, that's why the officer used a taser. This is a violent person who had just shot 5 people. But yes, I would say it definitely allowed us to get him into custody quicker. Thank you very much.
Chief, just to corroborate, there is no mental situation held so far obvious on the suspect?
That will be part of our investigation. I'm not going to discuss his possible mental state or anything like that. That's stuff that we all have to determine in our investigation. Thank you so much.